time of life is just spiritual.
The spiritual things.
Spiritual.
Yeah. So what are the important spiritual things that are a part of your life?
I think as I look around and as I go through this dying process, what I'm realizing is that one of the things that we have forgotten as, as all people, we've forgotten how to die. We have forgotten that it isn't scary. It is maybe uncomfortable, but we are going to another place. We're not
Around wisdom that you'd want to give to other people.
Wisdom is such a lofty term.
Wisdom's a big word.
It is very big. I think what I would like to, if I could give to other people something of complete value, it is that we don't have to live from the time we're children and first know what's going on. It's probably later when we're in our teens. That first instance when we realize that in this lifetime on earth we're not immortal and that our bodies can be damaged and that there is, from that point on, there's that fear of it's going to hurt when I die. And I think that it might, but I also think we have some control over how we die. Not when, but how. And that death itself isn't something to fear, but rather, I don't know, for me it's like, okay, I've spent 79 years now on this earth, in this lifetime, and I'm coming to the end of it, and it's, as you get older, it gets progressively more uncomfortable, but there's also, it feels like there's a door opening up where I will be going into a whole different type of life, one that I've been there, and one I've probably been in before, and that a lot of my soul family will be over there. I will be coming into contact with the people that I loved that have already gone over. And that will be a completeness, but it will also be, there's also going to be more, because that's where the Creator is. That's where we all come from. And we will have and we will give more acceptance than we're able to here on earth. I look forward to it. I think most of us have a deep understanding of that, but we don't trust it. We're afraid of it. Maybe that's not what's going to really happen. Maybe I'm not good enough to go there. I don't feel like that. I feel like everybody's good enough to go there. But I'm saying that when people think about dying, there's going to be a lot of people will feel like they don't they don't belong there. They're not good enough.
They don't belong there.
Because there's a lot of that kind of feeling out in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that right now there's even more than usual. And we look at our world and we maybe look at our politics, or we look at the dramas that are going on around us. People trying to sort out and make sense of what is going on in their own lives, and feeling like they're either a failure or they've been gypped.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't what I signed up for.
Mm-hmm.
But not feeling worthy enough. Like, dear God, you gave me too big a task. I can't do it. But that's not true. You will cope with, and you will come through whatever you are given. And the older I've gotten, the more I depend on that. The more I've depended on that. You're not going to give me something I can't handle. Therefore, I'm pretty darn safe. So all I have to do is trust, reach out, and know that I'm cared for, know that I will be given the help that I need for what is going on in my life. With that, if we believe in a higher being, that higher being is one who loves us, who takes care of us, who supports us as we go through our trials, who doesn't want us to fail, who wants to help us see how well we've done. And when you consider that and accept that, then you can move forward, and you can also reach out and grab the hands of people beside you, or in front of you, or wherever they are. If they will take from you, they can have that too. And most people will accept help, and it's when you give those little things. I'm pretty sure that what we give, some of the most effective things that we can give to other people are what we regard as very small things. But they've meant a great deal to someone else because they were down. You reached out your hand. You told them they were okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't even realize that you were doing something wonderful. I think that thought-provoking ideas, thought-provoking things you see, are really what make us grow. Because every once in a while, when you do something that affects another person, there's a feeling of, wow, that was for me too. When you reach out and you actually know and feel that you have made a difference in someone's life, that is a very good difference in someone's life. That is so comforting, at least for me. If I know I've made a difference in someone's life, it is making life better for them, I feel like I've been gifted with one of the greatest gifts I could be given. Because it's so easy to hurt people. But to know that you helped is like it's giving you power, but not in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the power of love. You can feel that power of love because it's flowing through you and coming from the Creator, coming from God, coming from all the holy men and women that have lived on this earth, that have done their best to reach out. It's just a power that doesn't hurt. It's a power that helps. And it's love. It's the ultimate, I feel, that's the ultimate power that can actually change things. It's probably the only power that can. So, when even if you're just, you know, you're say you're in somewhere and then this actually happened to me. I was somewhere where I was fairly far away from the person and they fell down. And all of a sudden, there are a bunch of people around him, lifting him up, making sure he was okay. That's the power of love and care. We don't care who you are. We just don't want you to hurt. We want to make sure you're okay. So.
I can see that's touching some emotion in you.
Yeah. I think it's important. The more people that can acknowledge that they do well, that they can do something good, will lift the, you know, it'll just lift the vibration of the earth. Right now we've got a lot of people just really angry or you know, upset because they're looking to the future and thinking that we're going to, you know, our country might fail, that something horrible will happen. And people who are handing out a lot of anger and fear, that's pretty much the opposite of love. Mm-hmm. Love can keep us afloat where anger and fear can sink us. So sometimes I think that when something happens where people reach out to those people who are very, if they don't know, you know, what's going on in the world, they're scared, they're frightened, and in return they lash out, they become aggressive because they're scared of what's coming. If someone reaches out and gives them something besides that aggression, just a little bit of help here or there, it could be a sentence, it could be a smile, it could just be, how are you today? You know, I really want to know, how are you today? Just those kinds of things. If they were just spread all over the place, think about what our world would be. 79.
Okay.
I've had 79 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at my grandkids, I remember what life was like for me when I was that age. Pretty confusing.
Mm.
Pretty, it was, as we grow, we don't get born perfect, and we don't die perfect. We are imperfect, but that doesn't stop you from growing. And at any age, you go through periods of time. I started off my work life as a social worker in the Department of Welfare in Colorado. And it was, a worthy job. But it was one that it was very difficult for me to do it. And finally, I quit it. It was just too difficult for me. And after I worked at the welfare department, I just ended up having a few, different jobs that were where I was exploring what thing I'd go at. It's often very hard for you to tell what you're good at and where you would be most able to do some good in the world. And what I did find at that, I also got a divorce from my daughter's father. Wonderful man, but we were not at all compatible. And so we did separate, but one of the things that I always, going through that divorce, there were things I had to think about. And one of the things I finally came to, because I was late 20s, and I'd seen friends of mine go through divorces and come out very bitter and angry on the other end, and almost vindictive. And I knew that wasn't fair. So I made, it's like, I think at that point it was like there was a life lesson that was triggered. And what was I going to do? Was I going to get pretty bitter about this? Was I going to feel like I was totally in the right and righteously could be angry about this? And I decided no. That one of the life lessons I needed to do was look at all of us. My daughter, my ex, myself. And when I made the effort through that whole life lesson to not say bad things about him, especially to only say good things, because there were a lot of good things. We're made up of bad and good. So I wanted my daughter to have a father that she could be proud of. And there were many, many things that her father did and would do that made him extremely special. He was a very generous man. He worked with handicapped people through the government. It was a federal job, and set up, went out, got contracts, and they set up these contracts with the people so that they could earn money. They needed supervision, they needed help in order to do that. He was able to do that. He was able to do a whole bunch of things that made a difference in the world. And maybe if I had played that card wrong, if I had gotten very vindictive and turned Tracy away from her dad, what a difference that would have made in the world. It could have devastated him. It could have devastated and made my daughter bitter. It could have, who knows what it could have done. He could have gone into a funk and started going, oh, I'm such a terrible person. And then all that wonderful stuff he did would have not happened. So after that, so that was that part of my life. Then I did move from the city to the country, moved to Bandon, where I lived for, in Oregon on the coast. I lived there for about 45 years, then came over here. And I once counted it up. I was going, I've had an awful lot of work experience here, a lot of different jobs. And I counted it up, and it was somewhere between 17 and 20 jobs that I had had. Everything from working in the library for a few years, worked for a candle factory in the office, worked for an attorney. I got a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Then I ended up going to the junior college and getting some accounting background because I had gotten this job to get an accounting system in place for a business. And I worked with my professor, who was very good, I mean, he was great, and actually put together an accounting system for him, for the business. And that led eventually to my going into business for myself, doing taxes. I got my tax preparer's license and then my tax consulting license. And I was able to help people with their own businesses, with understanding what they had to keep track of, trying to keep them on, as legal as possible. I mean, sometimes you don't get the whole picture because the whole picture has been forgotten, hasn't been written down. You do the best you can. And for some of those, a couple of those, like the Oregon Tax Department once told me, I was very honest about this one business that I was working with. And I said, they just don't keep records, and it's not because they are trying not, they are truly involved in this business. They are doing the best they can, but they don't keep records. And I was so glad that I had been that, I was just glad that I was able to go through that with as much honesty, being as honest about everything that I saw and did there, because the department just said, okay, we're going to take this. We're not going to mess with it further. it's okay. We'll just let it go. Because most of it was there. It was as close as we could get. So it was interesting because that allowed me to see a government agency actually having a heart. And I felt like it showed that, to me, it showed that there is much people can do for each other if they are not, if they're willing to do it. If they're willing to just look at what's there and accept people as people, as doing the best they can. Not perfect, but doing the best they can. Then I went into business for myself. Well, I was in business for myself up until I retired. And I retired from bookkeeping first, and then from taxes. And that was really nice. It was time for me to get out of that kind of work. And I ended up with a second divorce. And then I'm going, what do I want? What do I want for me? Not for someone else. Not to blend in with someone else's belief systems, or not hide my what I feel from anybody else. And I decided that it was a spiritual life. I wanted to explore that. My dad had been a minister, so I grew up in the church. And then, I don't know, I kind of got out of it because it didn't fit what I was in. A lot of it fit. The whole, just the structure and the conservativeness of what I was exposed to. So this time when I went back, I started looking at things that maybe people wouldn't consider spiritual, but I saw things like from a health point of view, acupuncture, chiropractic, all of that, all of these alternative things, the energy work. For me, energy work is just amazing. I mean, not that I'm doing it, but I'm receiving it and I can feel it. And that, I feel, is something, it's a gift that some people have. They're healers. And just by their touch, by the way they work with the body, it becomes a gift of love, a gift of I think it becomes a gift of spiritual knowledge, because they know, those kind of healers know when something happens. They can feel it in the body of their client. And it's, I think, a connection that is not real common. It's the connection of a soul to a soul. And one of the souls is a healer soul. The other one is receptive to that. And you're sharing something so spiritually intimate that it just vibrates through you. You can You can tell that you've been touched by something. And I think that's part of God, spiritual. We're all part spiritual, part physical. You're actually touched by the spirit of another person, and you've shared your spirit with them, and healing begins. So I've experienced that. I also went to work for a spiritual teacher online, and I started with her. I took classes from her all of 2012, and in 2013 I started working for her all the way up to 2020. It's 2020 or 2021. I think it was 2021. And I learned so much because she was, her spiritual gift was, she had gone through what she called an awakening, and it broke open all of her intuitive abilities, all the players opened up for her, and she began to teach about this, and putting in a structure so that, and helping people to recognize when their intuition was actually coming into play. And I was able to, I was like her online receptionist or assistant. As I got more advanced, then I was able to do a lot more there. And that was very wonderful. It was a rewarding period of time. But then I got to the point where there was just this knowledge that, okay, this part of your education is over. You're done here. And now I'm in the process of exploring death. There isn't very much else. I think if I were a fairy godmother with my magic wand,
Mm-hmm.
I would grant everyone a little core of love that would be, it's in your heart. It's from above. And that being able to touch that area, being able to feel loved and loved. And knowing, and I think I said this earlier, knowing that no matter what, you are safe. No matter what's going on, you're safe. You're never going to die. You're just going to go to a different place. And you're going to be a spirit, and you're going to continue learning. And then maybe come back for another lifetime to further develop your own strength, emotional, physical, and spiritual. Your spiritual strength is probably the strongest thing that you can give yourself. It's knowing that you're safe. It's knowing that you have help. It's knowing that you're never alone. It's knowing that you're loved. And some of that love you don't really know where it's coming from. I mean, it's not like you can turn around and say, oh, there's a person sending love to me. It's more like there's my spiritual side that is still connected to this spiritual, to whatever you want to call it, heaven, the afterlife. It's still connected there. And when you need a little more strength, the beings that are working with you over there will infuse that for you. You just have to trust that it's there and accept it. I think that's it.
Okay.